Yeah, so I'm Cameron Herold. I'm the author of 5 books. One of them is called Vivid Vision. I also wrote Double Double, The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, Free PR, and Meeting Suck. I've been coaching real companies, typically 50 to 500 employees, over the last 13 years. I've done paid speaking events in 26 countries on 6 continents. I've been the highest rated speaker 5 times at the EMP program at MIT. And I'm known for building a number of companies, one of which I was the second in command for, called the 1-800-GOT-JUNK. I came into that company as the 14th employee, and when I left 6.5 years later, we had 3,100 employees system-wide, and we ranked as the #2 company to work for in Canada, and had generated 5,200 stories about our company and our culture. So that's kind of what I'm known for. I was groomed as an entrepreneur. My dad and grandparents both all owned companies, and they groomed the 3 of our kids to be entrepreneurs. And to this day, my brother and sister and I each own our own companies and always have. I've also worked as a second in command 3 times with different companies. So that's kind of a little bit of my backstory, I guess.
Well, and you're being modest. It's, you took, I know in Got Junk, you took that from, a couple $1 million to over 100 million. And I think you've done that more than once, right?
Yeah, 1-800-GOT-JUNK, we went from 2 million to 106 million in 6 years. We had 6 consecutive years of doubling the revenue. We had no debt. We gave out no equity in the company. And yeah, I had also done it with a private currency company that we built up and sold for 64 million back in January of 2000, where we had 30,000 companies buying and selling using our digital currency instead of the US dollar. I built a chain of collision repair shops, which in the US is now known as Gerber Auto Collision. In
Sure.
Canada, it was Boyd Auto Body in Canada when I was involved, and I led some of the corporate acquisitions, the branding, the franchising, the rollout and buying programs of that company. And then I also opened the West Coast of the United States for a group called College Pro Painters, which became the world's largest house painting company. And I was with them on the senior leadership team as well as a franchisee. And with them, I actually started coaching entrepreneurs. By the time I was 28, I'd coached 120 entrepreneurs, all of which had at least 10 employees. And back in 1993, I hired Kimball Musk, who's Elon's brother, as a franchisee. And then also Peter Reeve, who built Solar City, was a franchisee of mine back in 93 as well. So I've been around entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial companies for a long time.
And it's interesting. Our paths originally crossed in the whole COO world. You're probably, one of the foremost thought leaders in the COO world. But it's funny you mention Elon's brother, Kimball. I was just actually reading this morning, and it's a good segue into the conversation I'm excited to have with you today, because in my world, entrepreneurs, there's a large segment of them that have this idea they want to go out and change the world. And so they look at people like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, and who have created these world-changing companies. And what was interesting is I was actually reading on Elog's blog about his master plan, and how these guys, they literally sit down and have this future is created and written out, their vision.
Yeah.
In last month's Wired magazine in January of, this is 2020, they had the whole article on Mark Zuckerberg's lost journals, and how, when he started, he had journals full of what Facebook was going to look like, 10, 20, 30 years down the road.
Yeah, as do I. I've got my journal just sitting around the corner for what I'm running today was journaled out 13 years ago. I mean, not at the scale of Facebook, but with mind maps, with lists, with action plans, with full-on summaries of everything. I've always worked in reverse, where if I lean out into the future and describe the future, I can figure out how to reverse engineer that. I'll give you a funny Elon story, because I was a reference for Elon and Kimball in their very first round of funding for their first company, Zip2. So prior to PayPal, prior to Tesla and SpaceX, but they had one employee, and they wanted to raise money, and Kimball called me to be a reference for them with what was then called a merchant bank, which is now a venture capital firm, but it was Kleiner Perkins. And they were raising money in this software program that I didn't even understand. They were trying to talk about the internet and and having a newspaper online. And like, I didn't even have an email address in 95. So I didn't know what the internet was.
Yeah, sure.
They were so good at communicating the future and getting people excited about the future that people would invest in that. And Kimball called me that night. He's like, I don't know what you told them. We asked them for 600,000. They gave us $3 million.
That's awesome.
You know, even the Model S, if you think about the Tesla Model S, do you know why it has the 7-seat option?
No, I do not.
From day one, the Tesla Model S had 2 seats in the front, 3 in the back, and then the 2 jump seat option in the very back. Well, it's because Elon had 5 kids. So if he's going to build a car, why wouldn't it be able to fit his family? He's an inch taller than me at 6'5", so he's got leg room and headroom, and the person sitting behind him has leg room. He designed the car for his family and him. It has to be fast like his old McLaren F1, had to be sexy in design like he liked. And then he just said, who's crazy enough to want to help me build it?
Yeah, it's funny you say about how their fundraising succeeded better. What we're talking about today, when I wrote my current company's vivid vision and I showed it just to a couple of friends actually to get their initial responses on it, I had 2 of them basically like their literal response was, where do I write you a check? Like they were just waiting. They either both wanted to invest in the business and then they wanted to buy what we were making. It's just such a powerful tool.
Early stage companies tend to understand vision because they have to go out and attract employees and attract investors and attract suppliers. So they typically are able to articulate it verbally. Later stage companies tend to forget about vision because they're so myopic and focused on today. And they end up trying to get people excited about today's boring. Like nobody's excited about today. So it's that 3-year stretch that I think gets people excited.
Well, and where it shows up in my world is I help these business owners really simplify and optimize their marketing. And what's really important with that is the kind of metaphor I use is if you had a magic wand and all your marketing worked, 100% and did what you expected, are you going to build the company that you hope to build? And when they're not clear on their vision, and their mission and their values, it all works together. 9 times out of 10, it is radically different from what they actually are expecting.
Yeah, well, if you don't know where you're going, anywhere it'll take you there, right? So your marketing, you need to have clarity of vision for marketing to even make sense.
So how do you see, when you talk to an entrepreneur that has the very stereotypical vision statement, right? I think I love how you described it, just the jumble of words thrown together.
You got all your leadership team together and you picked your favorite words and you put them up on a whiteboard and you voted on your favorite words and you mashed them up into a sentence. That's your mission statement, right? Go team.
Yep, exactly.
That doesn't do anything for anybody.
No, or there's that magnet game where you throw the magnets on the refrigerator, kind of the Mad Libs of vision.
Totally. Yeah, so we all know that doesn't work, but in the absence of that, no one had ever given us a different system, no business school or textbook. So I tried to create this idea based on what we learned from an Olympic coach 20 odd years ago, who talked about vision in athletes, and athletes would visualize themselves performing their event. And they would close their eyes and see themselves hundreds of times performing the event. I used to ski race, and there's downhill races that I skied when I was in my late teens that if I close my eyes today, I can still ski an awful lot of these courses, like almost as if I'm completely on. I can feel it, but I've done it hundreds of times in my head the night before the race.
Every bump, right?
Every bump, every ripple, every little pre-jump. It was incredible. I never skied it as well in person as I could in my mind, though. It was amazing. Yeah. But in the business world, entrepreneurs often have a vision in our mind of what we want our company to look like, but we don't get it out of our mind. We think we're communicating it, but we've got almost this full description. So the vivid vision idea is a way for the entrepreneur to lean out into the future, 3 years out, only 3 years out, describe their company in vivid detail as if they're walking around their company. So you describe operations, you describe IT, and you're going to put 3 or 4 bullet points to get you started about each area. You'll describe marketing, you'll describe engineering and operations and sales, customer service. You describe your leadership team and your management meetings. You describe your retreats and what the customers are saying about you, what the employees are saying about you. as if it's already come true. You describe your office environment and the energy and the culture and what the media is writing about you. And when you describe all of that, you can kind of get it all written up and give it to a copywriter and polish it and make it a really great document and even add some design elements to it so that everybody can see what you can see. That's really the starting point, is getting it out of your head and into about a 5-page written description so that everybody can see what you, and then every sentence becomes a future state that you can figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah, it's what I saw when I first got your book, Vivid Vision, and of course we'll have links to everything in this. What struck me about it was and I remember a few years ago, gosh, probably been closer to a decade now, where The Secret was really big.
Sure. And
everyone was talking about how you manipulating the universe and whatnot with your thoughts, but this is literally the embodiment of that. You're basically creating your own future.
John Assaraf and I are getting together for a drink on the 31st or the 1st at TNC if you want to join us. But John's the guy with the vision boards from the movie. Yep. He's been to our offices at 1-800-GOT-JUNK. We had him speak to all of our employees. We showed the movie to all of our employees. We showed the movie twice to all of our franchisees. We asked our suppliers to watch the movie, even though it's a little bit cheesy, a little bit materialistic.
Yeah.
The power of that manifestation, you got to put work behind the manifestation, but it starts with vision, and then it's conceive, believe, and achieve, right? And so we use that movie as a real strong. I have my clients that I coach today, my company that I coach, have to watch that.
Yeah, it is, and it's. The interesting thing I like about what you've done is, I think everyone can see the value of doing a vision, but it's the what part of it is pretty clear. What is a vision? Actually, that was a little fuzzy too until you wrote your book.
Yeah.
But it was the how do you do this that was the missing component that you filled in.
Yeah, so the how is interesting, right? Often we get stuck in our business and in the how to do stuff. So what I like about vision, like I work from home, so I'm actually sitting in my living room. I got a view of the mountains and the ocean, my fireplace in front of me, but this is where I work from. So when I do vision, I get out of this space and I go somewhere else around nature that I can be relaxed, either up to a chalet up in Whistler or out at a golf club or sit down by the ocean, or I've sat in my car in the middle of winter down by the ocean and journaled, or I sat in my hammock in my backyard, a place that I can allow my mind to drift. And I take a notebook and a pen and I start mind mapping.
Yeah.
And I just allow for a few hours the ideas to flow out without thinking how I'm going to make it come true. And then I ask myself a series of questions, right?
I want to hear the questions, but I think it's good to point out, like, that was a really important facet for me, was to get off site. I think if you're projecting into the future and you're sitting in your office, your environment is going to put, I think, these subconscious restrictions on you, where you're going to say, I have a friend doing this now, and he's going to need umpteen thousand square feet of warehouse space, but his current space won't allow for it.
Right.
If he doesn't get out of his office, his environment is limiting his vision.
Of course, we're inside of that container, and we're distracted by our current employees and email and people walking by, and we're in the zone of always problem solving instead of just allowing ourselves to dream, and then the team can figure out how.
Yeah.
Here's the best example I've ever seen on this. If you've ever built a home or done a renovation to a home, for the most part, most humans aren't good at doing any of the actual work. Now, I can dream about what I want my kitchen to look like and how I want the fireplace to work and how I want the cupboards to look and what kind of wolf stove I want. But I don't know how to do the electrical and the plumbing and pull the gas and do the flooring and hang cabinets and do millwork. And I don't like painting, even though I was in it for years. So I don't know how to do the work.
Right.
But the contractor knows how to do the work. And if I show the contractor what I want him to build, he can create the blueprints to make my vision come true, and then the workers can follow the plans. That's the power of getting out of the office, is allowing yourself to dream about what it's going to look like. Then you bring the vivid vision back into the office, you give it to your management team and your leadership team, and you let them figure out how to make every sentence come true. And then much like building a home, you do the foundation first, then you put in the walls, then you do the electrical and the plumbing. Most companies get distracted by the cool marketing idea. Oh, we should do this social media. Oh, we should do, text messaging. Oh, we should do, maybe not. Or maybe, but not yet. Maybe you should fix your website. Maybe you should figure out what your core purpose is. Maybe you should figure out your avatars. Like maybe you should kind of back up a little bit and then work into all the marketing tactics or the sales, etc.
How do you deal with not only the environment that would limit your vision, but those little demons on your shoulders that, say, oh, you can't possibly do that. Like that balance between the vision and a BHAG, and then do you suggest like just let it all go and get it? I mean, you got to get it all out. You can always evaluate later, right?
Yeah. Again, the idea is to not get stuck in how pies, right?
Yeah.
That's a Dean Jackson quote, but the idea is to figure out who to make it happen, not how to make it happen. I don't, again, have no idea how to do electrical, but I know how to find an electrician that can do the electrical.
Yeah.
And I know what I want the lighting to look like. I just don't know how to do it. But I know for the budget I've got, the time I've got, somebody can figure that out. And if they can't, then we can talk about it.
Yeah.
So the entrepreneur's job is to describe what it looks like and then help people remove obstacles and help find the resources to make it all come true.
Yeah. You got to have the bullseye in order to hit a target.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're out of the office now. You mentioned that you have some questions that'll help me, on this journey of writing and getting the vision out of my head and heart and onto paper.
So you're out of the office, you're going to ask yourself about each of the business areas on your org chart and write down 3 or 4 bullet points for each. Then you're going to ask yourself about what the customers are saying, the employees are saying, the media is saying, and your customers are saying, your suppliers, like kind of the groups that influence your business. And once you pull all that out, then you describe the office environment, your use of technology, your meeting rhythms. You kind of describe the company, how you do things, why you do things, where you do things, kind of the who, what, when, where, why, without figuring out how it all happens. Kind of like if you hopped in a time machine, like you and I hopped in the DeLorean with Michael J. Fox, we blast off to like December 31st, 3 years from now. We don't know how it happened, but we can describe our company.
Yeah.
We see the culture, we see the people. We don't know how we got them, but we know we got them. We see these interviews and we're like, fuck, those are good. Like, so the key is to describe what's happening and then let the team figure out the delta between where we're going and where we are today. They can figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah. Once it's out there, you can reverse engineer it. It's amazing how
easily,
what clarity doing this work gives you in your business. And even so much, do you get into like product line services? Like you want them to dive deep into every area, right?
Of course. Like if you think that, my core purpose is helping entrepreneurs make their dreams happen, right? That's why I get up in the morning. My vivid vision that describes Cameron Herold Enterprises and what I do describes my books, which helps entrepreneurs make their dreams happen, describes the CO Alliance, which gives the skills to the second command to help them make their dreams happen, describes my speaking event, which gives them the tools, describes my second in command podcast. Like everything is described, all consistent with my core purpose.
Yeah.
And described, and it allows me to say no. Like, no, I don't want to go and speak at that government event. No, I don't want to coach somebody who's a nonprofit or a manufacturing company. No, I don't want to coach a company that's 10,000 employees. It's not my zone.
Yeah.
So it allows me to say no to some things and hell yeah to others.
And that's the value in my world for marketing, because that saying no is one of the most valuable parts of this when it comes to actually going out and generating leads and new customers. Like everyone, and it's funny how many business owners, they have this almost like genetic aversion to saying no to potential new customers. Like everyone is a customer.
Yeah.
And in marketing, that's the kiss of death. When you're selling to everybody, you're selling to nobody.
No, I'm so clear on what I'm doing and where I'm going, and so is everyone around me, that stuff just starts to happen because people, they know who to introduce me to. They know, and we're all hardwired to help, right? So people want to help each other. They want to make the introductions. Yeah.
So you work with so many different companies. Do you have a concrete example where you sat down with someone and maybe their vision was really muddled, and you help them through this process. They got it down in writing, and then like almost to the T, it just executes and
Yeah.
it's like a clear example.
A very clear example. So I have a company based out of Toronto, Canada called Viva Naturals. And Viva Natural, when I met them, they were about 12 employees. They were doing $3.5 million in revenue. They now, if you look on Amazon and look up coconut oil, Viva Naturals, their coconut oil has about 17,000 reviews.
Is that a green label? I think I know that one.
It's kind of white with, it's a very white label, but you'll know it. It has like a green ink on it. They have like one of the #1 krill oils, #1 MCT oils. They're really good products, but thousands and thousands, some of them tens of thousands of reviews. When I started coaching them, nobody knew them. They were good at kind of geeking out on Amazon, but they didn't know how to scale their company. 4 years later, they were 52 million in revenue, with a team of about 50 people it was almost like a cult. People wanted to work for them. They were attracting the right talent. They were able to push out some of the negative, grumpy people. It just became this like machine. It was incredible.
And how far off was that from what they wrote 3 years prior?
I don't think it was far off. I think it probably blew past in some ways.
Probably exceeded everything. Yeah. That's awesome. Cool. So the idea, and then once you have it written, you've got all this down on paper. I feel it's incredibly valuable to invest. The next step is if you have internal resources like graphic resources or whatnot, but make this document a part of your company. I mean, it also becomes a key component to the culture of the business. Like everybody needs to see this.
Yeah, if you want some examples, I can even give you some examples of really great ones that have been written where the CEO gets it written first and then a copywriter polishes it and makes it pop off the page. And then a graphic designer, internal or external, adds the right design elements to make it really feel like the brand. The key is to not over-process this thing. It's to not turn it into so much of a marketing piece that it loses the gist of what it's really about. People reading this thing. And often I find if you put too many photos in, it can distract. You know, the picture says 1,000 words.
That was what I was hoping you were going to touch on, the picture elements.
Yeah, you really want people to read this document, not just keep looking at pictures. It's not about I could show you a picture of my living room, but all I really want to show you is the comfort of the fireplace. Well, you're looking at the statues and the art and the leather furniture and my guitar. That had nothing to do with, but because it was in the picture, you saw it, right?
Right. And that's kind of one of the distinctions between this vivid vision written document and doing, in the old days, we would do the vision boards.
So I love a vision board for one person. And a vision board is intended to be done by one person because they always see what that picture meant to them. But if I show you a picture, you're going to see something different than what I saw in the picture. So what I love, and I've got a great example of this, a client out of Phoenix, Arizona, called Loud Rumor. They have their vivid vision for their company, and they do all the marketing for like F45 and Orange Theory and some great chains of gyms. But every employee read the vivid vision for the company, and then they did their own individual vision board to represent the vivid vision of the company. So each employee, and then all their vision boards are up on the wall. It's so cool because they're so different. But for every employee, they saw something or felt a pull to something that inspired them. So their vision board absolutely ties into the vivid vision, but no one else would have any idea what they're looking at.
And what a management tool. Like even this morning I was reading in the EO group, the guy was talking about how to motivate like low-level warehouse workers and such.
I've seen great examples of this in that whole environment. Yeah.
Wow. See, it's such a valuable tool. I can't get over how I love it. So, all right. So do you have any cautionary advice, things not to do with it?
Yeah, some of the cautionary ones are don't roll this out as a 10 or 20-year BHAG document. Like a big, hairy, audacious goal is meant to be that summary statement that's going to drive you. Your vivid vision is not a 10-year, it's not a 5-year. That's so far out that people won't get excited or feel it can happen. And 1 year is too close. So 3 years works. I would be cautious on how many pages you make this. Don't turn this into a manual with 10, 12 pages, because then no one will read it. It is not a print it and read it once document. It's a print it and read it monthly. Print it and read your customer, or have your customers read it quarterly. Have your suppliers read it quarterly. Put it on your website. Send it to potential employees. Like, it's always being shared. It's omnipresent.
I find when like, we all have the hard weeks, the hard days where you wake up in the morning and you're like, I don't even know where to start today. And I find on those days, that's when I sit down and just reread my vision. And all of a sudden, boom, everything's just crystal clear again. I know exactly what to do next. So like, it's for me, it's a weekly review almost.
Yeah, and I actually talk about that in the book, The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs. I co-authored that with Hal Elrod. And we talk about in our morning savers that the letter V in the morning savers is visualization.
Yeah,
it's either reading your vivid vision or, and I'm actually getting ready to do them today. You read your vivid vision and audio record it, so then you can lie in bed and listen to it in the morning. And that becomes a very powerful exercise as well, because it just kind of burns it into your brain.
I'll have to send you, I came across this tool the other day that would take, it's that idea of using your own voice to record things, but then he backtracks it with neural beats.
Ooh, cool.
So it gets like super deep into your consciousness.
Send me that. That would be amazing. Like, imagine an entrepreneur now has their vivid vision recorded with the neural beats, and they can actually, that's powerful stuff.
Yeah, he's using it for moms, like with infants that have sleep issues. The moms can sing, and then they have like sleeping neural beats behind it that helps the infants, and the mom can go get some rest too and leave the phone in the room thing.
That's super cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool idea. So, all right, well, I hope we've impressed upon everyone not only the power of doing this, that it has in your world. I mean, you're talking about, most people I know start a business to accomplish a dream. And this, to me, is one of the most, if not the most powerful tool for making that dream a reality. Because then, like you said, it comes down to, once it's out there, you can fill in the gaps, hire the people, reverse engineer every part of it just to get it done. And I think I'm super grateful that you took the time to share this with us today.
Of course. Any
last words, or?
No, I think the reality is that it's just key to get this thing done and then to roll it out. I guess the last word is, when you start sharing this with people, it's going to feel a little bit awkward because they're so focused on what it looks like today that it's going to take them a few months to start to buy in. Yeah. Don't get discouraged when they don't buy in right away. So continually communicating it, and all of a sudden, one sentence at a time, it'll start to come true.
Yeah, awesome. And we didn't touch on it a little bit, but do you do this for clients? Should people reach out if they have questions or what? Or obviously they should start with your book.
Yeah, I would start with the book. If they want writers, I've got 2 amazing teams of writers that actually help polish Vivid Visions, that if they send us an email, we can introduce them to those writers for sure.
That's Jennifer, right?
Jennifer Hude has a team, and then I've also got a guy up in Canada, Scott Glover.
Okay. Yeah, because everyone, business owners are busy, so if they can at least get the rough draft done, we can then get it polished up and usable for the business.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Graphic design, all that. So
what I tend to do is I tend to coach companies once they have about 50 employees and they want to start making their Vivid Vision come true. That's where I come in on coaching them to make that happen.
Yeah, and that's your personal coaching, right? Versus okay. Well, that's all also out there. We're going to have, again, I'll put all your links in there. I want to. If you haven't by chance heard of Cameron, which I find hard to believe, but we'll have all your information down there.
Sounds great. Russell, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, you bet. Thanks for sharing with us today. I'm super grateful you took the time.
All right. Take care.